Coming up, Council's new unreasonable customers policy, upgrades for Redbank Plains Road Stage 3 and Springfield Parkway and Springfield Greenbank Arterial, new applications for public monuments and memorials, what will the 2032 Olympics mean for Ipswich, and what happened to annual land valuations. It's Friday, February 26, 2021, and I'm Alan Roebuck. Welcome to Ipswich Today, which acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which it is produced and pays respects to elders past, present and emerging. This podcast is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. The second Ipswich City Council meeting for the year was held on Thursday, February 25. In more than 2 hours, councillors dealt with recommendations from all committees and some 9 officers' reports. Mayor Teresa Harding joins me now to talk about some of the highlights. Mayor Harding, thank you for speaking with Ipswich Today.
Thank you for the invitation, Alan.
First up, the Smart City program. Now, you've made public statements before. You want more information on the Transparency and Integrity Hub. Are you any the wiser of what the previous council spent just over $4.5 million on?
Look, we're still working through the issues with the Privacy Commissioner. I want to make sure that we do open the books and that everyone can see exactly how their rates were spent.
There were some significant parts, like the autonomous vehicle trial and a couple of other projects. Would they be considered worthwhile in your eyes?
Well, I think the council motion that was put forward at our very first council meeting back in April last year was to ask for a report on the Smart City program. And we had a report tabled and we've sent it back to provide more information. We know that it did spend $4.6 million and we know that it did involve a smart city blueprint and an implementation plan, and it did involve overseas travel and delegations and consultants. So I think it's probably really important for people to see how their rates were spent and what value did we get. At the end of the day, what have we got for it?
Another item on the agenda this week was monuments and memorials, which can often be filled with emotion. However, the recommendations went through with little discussion at the council meeting. From where I sit, the biggest of the three is from the Ipswich RSL sub-branch and the Soldiers Memorial Hall in Nicholas Street there. Some 11 memorial stones and plinths. It seems a lot for the limited space available. Is council happy with that proposal?
Look, the proposal was to say, can we proceed with the next step of the application? So I think that's going to be fleshed out more at the next step. But, you know, you were right, Alan, when you say that they're very emotional. Monuments are emotional places. They are a time for us to reflect. So, you know, this council supports in principle the 3 proposals that were brought to us, as well as we even included another one. The Deputy Mayor also asked if we could also look into the Blackall Monument and what would be involved in moving it from Denmark Hill down to Darcy Doyle Place.
I noted a couple of other councillors did comment on that, saying it's been examined before. I guess it will come down to the dollars and cents and how much it will cost to move it.
Yeah, always have our eye on the dollar to make sure that the ratepayers get good value. But look, let's look at it and see if it's feasible or not. Customer
conduct was also before council. Why does council need a new policy on how to deal with unreasonable customers?
Well, our organisation only had an unreasonable customer conduct policy for the library. There was not one for the organisation in total. And obviously we have a very busy service centre. So the CEO put forward a proposal for us to have a unreasonable customer conduct policy in line with a lot of other councils. That's to support our staff, but also to make sure that everyone gets a fair hearing as well.
There's a couple of big infrastructure projects in the pipeline. Where is council at with the Redbank Plains Road Stage 3 upgrade?
Yeah, look, that's a pretty big road project. It's basically upgrading, to 4 lanes to an urban standard on Redbank Plains Road between Kedges Road and Kruger Parade. So it's pretty exciting. The first part's happening, which is Stage 3, which is just basically from Jansen Street between Redbank Plains Road and Johnson Street. So a lot of work there. That project will be a $38 million project, and the state government has also partially funded that as well.
I think the locals would call that the missing link, Mayor.
Yes, it's very much needed. So look, that Jansen Street's supposed to be completed in June this year, but the whole thing won't be finished until early next year.
Another big one, which is obviously front and centre in the Springfield area, is the Springfield Parkway and Springfield Greenbank Arterial. I think the locals would consider that the most pressing job across the city. Where is that at? The
Springfield Parkway and the Springfield Greenbank Arterial road duplications are a major project for us. It'll be the largest single road project that council has ever done in its history. And we've broken it up into 3 stages. And this particular stage that went to council was looking at, that part near the intersection there, where we are looking at the bulk earthworks in preparation for service locations, retaining wall installation, but probably more importantly, the construction of that single-span 20-metre bridge across Possum Creek.
Another infrastructure project is centred around Blackstone in one of the older suburbs. Now, overland flow and flash flooding has been an issue there for many, many years, but there's also going to be a set of traffic lights at the Mary Street intersection. When will that progress?
Yeah, that's very exciting. So that drainage works and that road improvements happening around Blackstone, and works are currently underway for construction of the curb and channel on William Street and some of the drain works there on Charlotte Street. We're expecting that to be completed mid-March, so next month.
Now, the big news of the week for southeast Queensland and Australia has been the 2032 Olympics, and Brisbane's likely to score it. What will that mean for Ipswich?
Look, it's incredible. And look, this started from the Council of Mayors of South East Queensland 6 years ago. And they were sitting around the table working how can we make sure we get our fair share of infrastructure and public transport funding. And we thought the Olympics would be a good vehicle for that. So to see this bloom in the last 6 years has been incredible. And it really should be a catalyst for the federal and state governments to actually spend more money on public infrastructure out here.
I guess it's too early to call which sports would be held in Ipswich. It's 11 years away, but has there been any discussion on that front?
Look, obviously we've pitched, but that decision will be many years away. A big part of this is obviously the city deals with the South East Queensland bid for the Olympics, and obviously in that draft city deal is the Ipswich to Springfield Central train line. Now that public transport is absolutely essential for our growth. 70% of our future growth is going to be along that public transport corridor. So I see this as a real positive, and the fact that this will give us more strength and it gives us more oomph to make sure we get that funding for that train line.
Mayor Harding, you've done some intense lobbying in recent weeks with the federal government and the state government for funding for that corridor. What can the federal government actually contribute to building what is essentially a state government project?
You're right. Look, public transport is a state government responsibility, but we did see up in Redcliffe that the federal government did put in 50% towards that train line, and the state government 40% and the local government 10%. So, look, it is a massive project, and it will certainly require federal as well as state government funding.
Mayor Harding, thanks for the monthly catch-up, and thanks for talking with Ipswich today.
Thank you so much, Alan.
At the same February 25 meeting, Council was also provided with an update on the Ipswich CBD redevelopment centred on Nicholas Street. Deputy Mayor Marnie Doyle talked about the sentiment in the community.
Just for residents to understand the sentiment that is around at the moment with regard to leasing. As an observer at the Retail Subcommittee meeting last week, I was delighted to learn about the very positive interest from prospective tenants and investors in the market, and it's great news for residents and Ipswich that there's a strong return to confidence in Ipswich and our CBD. Both from, external parties, private investors and government agencies.
Head of Coordination and Performance, Sean Madigan, also briefed the meeting.
It's fair to say that over the last 6 weeks or so, we have seen a high level of engagement from industry in relation to leasing the various spaces across the Nicholas Street precinct, including level 2 of the council administration building, the bar/cafe area that sits on the Nicholas Street. So we are in confidential discussions with a prominent local business with a view to expanding their footprint in the city and operating that bar. We have the cinema EOI is out in the market, and early indication is there's significant interest there as well. So we are looking to attract a larger volume of both local businesses expanding and improving on the service delivery, as well as international brands coming into the precinct. We didn't see this momentum towards the end of last year, and COVID was a complication surrounding that. However, in the last, as I said, 6 weeks or so, the interest in the market has really increased and shows really positive signs. The Commonwealth Hotel, you'll be pleased to hear that we are in discussions and negotiations with 2 different parties to bring that back to a functional hotel. And the construction on that is due to be finished in about March, and then a fit out for an operator from that point onwards. So We are very confident having a fully leased or mostly fully leased precinct, certainly by the end of this year, up and running and providing a real destination for the people of Ipswich. I will just mention, so we have recently conducted a valuation of the new council administration building. The construction cost of that project is approximately $95 million. Our latest valuation for it as an ongoing tenanted building is approximately $145 million. So that is the uplift and the important investment of council, and there is a significant return on investment there that exists for council in terms of the asset that has been built.
To wrap up the February meeting, Councillor Russell Milligan put forward a notice of motion to insist on yearly property valuations from the Valuer General.
Two parts. A, that the Chief Executive Officer be requested to write to the Valuer General requesting that revised valuations be undertaken for the Ipswich City Council local government area on an annual basis, giving particular consideration to the valuation increases experienced in the significant growth areas across the city. And B, that a delegation consisting of the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and another councillor be arranged with the Valuer General to discuss the need to undertake annual valuations given the rapid development and projected population increase for Ipswich.
Council's Chief Financial Officer Jeff Keach was asked about the impact on ratepayers when there are not annual valuations.
Council officers and through and Council previously have written requesting for an annual valuation for a number of years. As you say, we've been on a biannual basis. The key impact, as you highlight, is not so much the overall increase in Ipswich as an average as a whole, it's the variation that happens across the city. So what can be large increases in certain pockets and not large increases in the others. The ability to deal with that with the current provisions just means that you end up getting a lot of movement in your valuations and therefore potentially in the rates bill. So by having an annual valuation for us would mean that it helps us in trying to moderate those increases across the city as part of our rating policies and strategies with you. So that's why our recommendation has always been with those levels of growth to try to have it more regularly than not. As I say, it's been every 2 years previously, but this year will be a third year before we potentially receive the valuation, hopefully next year.
Councillor Paul Tully added his voice to the motion and added an historical context.
This is a matter which has gone on for far too many years because local government fought over 20 years ago to have annual valuations provided for in the legislation. Because of the uncertainties and the problems which have been raised, that where we have properties, the property market increasing, you get a real dichotomy and a problem which can be partially remedied by averaging and capping, but which provides a situation which is very difficult for the community if it goes for more than 1 year. The curious thing under the Valuation of Land Act is that these are described as annual valuations, even if they're conducted every second or third year. They're still described legally in the Act as an annual valuation. Section 74 of the Act provides a couple of circumstances where it's not practical because of circumstances to have a valuation, or where a market survey has been done by the Valuer General. I don't see any situation in the case of Ipswich where we've got increasing property values in our Western Corridor through the Springfield area, Redbank Plains, Ripley Valley, the Walloon area, and other parts of the city where they're increasing. And as the CEO pointed out, what happens when they can still legally call it an annual valuation, even if it was done 5 years apart. And it's time that local government really continues to stand up because we are paying for this, the community is paying for it. Most of the valuations which are done nowadays are desktop valuations based on the data which the Valuer General already has. Where you've got wild variations which are occurring, and for example, the Courier Mail will print every few months the average sale prices across southeast Queensland, and therein lies the real problem. And what I'll do is to undertake as a member of the Local Government Policy Executive to re-raise this issue because this is just beyond comprehension. It's a joke. It's just a matter of the state government saving money and not doing what they're required to do under Section 72 of the Act, and that is to have a real annual valuation. An annual valuation means every 12 months, not every 3 or 4 years.
All councillors voted in favour of the motion. You can follow the council meeting with minutes and agendas from council's website and watch the replay on council's YouTube channel. You'll find handy links in the show notes. Ipswich Today is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. This podcast is also listener-supported. Please make a once-only gift or regular donation to help keep it online. Just go to ipswichtoday.com.au and click the donate button at the bottom of the page. You can subscribe for free and share this podcast from your favourite app, including iHeartRadio, or play Ipswich Today from your smart speaker. Music is supplied by Purple Planet Music. This is Alan Roebuck. Thanks for listening.